Desktop audio. Down to 15. Just make sure it's working before we continue.
Mm-hmm.
All right. All right. Let me turn my TV down. I got a replay of the women's game today. I already know the result of that one. Watching all kinds of Olympics.
Oh, yeah? I don't know who I know the United States lost yesterday, Team USA.
Yep.
And they play Russia, tomorrow night?
They play Slovakia tonight.
Tonight, okay.
At 10 o'clock. So it must be 11 a.m. game there because they're 13 hours ahead of us.
Wow, okay.
All right.
And I have not taken a look at your pictures yet. So I'm interested to hear from you about the pond hockey. But I do have the tickets.
Good.
And I guess I don't know how you want to do it. You don't work Saturday, right?
No, I don't. But I can drive out to you, leave my car, and then we can take yours.
Yeah, that's fine. Or we can meet somewhere if you want. It doesn't matter to me. If it makes it easier for you, rather than driving all the way home, I can meet you part way there. Or
well, I got to drive through that way anyway. We can meet at Harris Teeter, and I can just leave my car in the parking lot.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine.
Time's the game.
6 o'clock.
Okay.
And if you want to be there early to try and track this guy down, I don't know where he is inside the Coliseum.
Well, they probably don't open the doors. They probably don't open the doors much before 5, probably.
Yeah, you're probably right. So,
and by then, members of the press are in the press box.
Yeah,
probably.
Yeah, I just bought two $18.25 ticket, two $18 tickets.
I don't know how accessible the press box is.
Oh, it's very accessible. I'm sure it is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm sure there's nothing up at the top of the thing, so I'm sure they got it somewhere inside there. Seemed to me I saw it the last time, so.
All right, let's get going. Get my show notes up here. Looks like everything's going. All right, ready?
Yes.
All right. Hello and welcome to Season 2, Episode 25 of the Hockey Nuts Podcast. My name is Wayne. I'm here once again with Steve. How's it going tonight, Steve?
Going good, Wayne. Good to be with you. Excited to hear about your excursion. We got a lot to talk about, and this ought to be a good podcast here.
We do. It's been all of, 13 days, almost 2 weeks since we've last done a podcast. So
that's right.
Yeah, we do have a lot to catch up on. I mean, mostly we'll focus on the last week, the stuff that happened 2 weeks ago. If you haven't heard about it by now, it's probably not worth hearing about. So. So most of tonight's podcast will be talking about stuff that's happened over the last week, but we will touch on a couple of bigger stories that happened since the last podcast that we had. So, but yeah, we have to talk about some playoff races. We got to get you updated there. We got some trade deadline stuff coming up because the trade deadline is now less than 2 weeks away. We've got NHL's 32nd team is got some news coming up, And of course, we got to talk about my experience at the Maine Pond Hockey Classic. And if you're watching us on YouTube, I have my hat on that I
Oh
got
yeah.
there. It says it's got the logo, and it says Wicked Hard on there. They had what they call a Wicked Hard Slapshot contest,
Oh.
but they were selling these hats. So yeah, in true Maine fashion, they named their slapshot contest the Wicked Hard Slapshot contest. So yeah, we had a blast on that. So well, actually, why don't we go ahead and talk about that before we start talking about all the news of the week? And of course, as you know, I went up north to play in the 2018 Maine Pond Hockey Classic. I've been always wanted to play in a pond hockey tournament. I finally got my chance to do so. My son and I actually went up, and we made a team. I've got 3 other cousins that also play hockey who live up in that area. So between the 3 of them, myself, and my son, that made up of 5 out of our 7 players that we had to have on our team. And we picked up a couple of other local guys while we were up there to round out the roster. So overall, we had a blast. It was a good time. We played in the recreational division, and yeah, it was a blast. I mean, we got there, went up a day early just in case because there was some bad weather Wednesday, so we were driving through the rain all day Wednesday, and I pretty much hugged the coastline all the way up, and just so I'd stay out of the snow. And we made it as far as Boston, and without seeing any snow. Got plenty of rain though, but
Yeah.
we didn't. And we stayed just north of Boston at one of the hotels right on Route 1, just north of Boston. And then the next morning we got up and drove the rest of the way to Maine. It was about 3 more hours or so.
Mhm.
So that went pretty quick. But we just kind of hung around on Thursday, visited some family. And then Friday, we had our first game Friday night. And then 2 games on Saturday. Unfortunately, we didn't do so well. Apparently, the division that we chose had a number of teams on them that decided to play well below their division or well below their talent level to give themselves a better chance to win. So we couldn't compete with a couple of with many of the teams up there. So we
Wow.
did get eliminated on Saturday, but we had a blast anyway. Got to see some family, got to have some good times, and
That's good.
got a little bit of swag to show for it. Got my hat, and I got a sweatshirt
Oh wow. Yeah.
that has the logo on it. So we had a lot of fun.
That's good.
We had a lot of
That's
fun
good.
playing out on the pond. And yes, I did take quite a number of pictures. And if you go onto the Hockey Nuts Facebook page, you can see all of those pictures that I took. And it's at facebook.com/the Hockey Nuts if you want to see all the pictures that I took in and around. A lot of the pictures were of us and our team. We were the ones in the bright red Calgary Flames jerseys. And then I took a number of, on Sunday, my son and I went back to watch a lot of the playoff games, and I took a number of pictures there too. So a lot of good action shots. Got to really bone up on my hockey photography skills, so to speak, because I wasn't playing on Sunday. But no, we had a lot of fun. So if you want to check out those pictures, again, go to the facebook.com/the Hockey Nuts. That puts us right to our Facebook page, and there should be a link on there to to my personal page, which has the all of the photos on there. So, and I also did upload some video that I took to our YouTube page at thehockeynuts.com/YouTube. If you just go there, that'll redirect you right to our YouTube page. And I did upload a number of videos that I took And then during one of our games, I actually set up the video camera on a tripod. It's just in a stationary spot, and you see our team basically getting our butts kicked by one of the well, it happened to be the team that was runner-up in our division. And apparently, from what I understand, the team we were playing that day had a number of players on their team that had played at a very high level. One of the other teams that we played told us that they told them that they had one guy who played at UNH, another guy that played at Merrimack College, and these are the varsity teams, and then a few other guys that played at least at the Division III college or up in the juniors in Canada, Junior A.
Wow.
So yeah, it was a very good team that we faced, and they beat us quite easily without even so much as trying. So, but again, we had a blast. I would certainly do it again. I love playing in these pond hockey tournaments. I don't know if I go to that particular tournament because it is a long drive, but anyway, you know, when you live in North Carolina, you're going to have to drive a long ways to go play pond hockey.
Yeah, that's right.
So
that's a lot of fun. That sounds like I'm glad you had a good time.
Yep. So we had a blast. Yeah, I don't know what more else there is to say about it. I guess if you want to ask me any questions about it, I'm certainly willing to answer them. You can tweet me. I'm at Wayne Halley 9 if you want to tweet me any questions about the pond hockey tournament. But the pictures that I took are pretty self-explanatory. It basically captures the essence of what went on over the weekend. But we had a good time. So
very good.
All right.
Did you win a game?
No, we didn't win a game. We went 0-3.
So you went in the toughest division.
Yeah, we got a bad draw. We were in a division with 16 teams, and 8 went on to play in the playoffs on Saturday. And out of those 8, 3 of them were in our pool. We were in a pool of 4 teams.
Oh, wow.
And 3 out of 4 made it to the playoffs. We were the one team that did not make the playoffs. And then out of the other pools, there was only 5 other teams total that made the playoffs. So, yeah, we got put in a bad draw. And I think one of the theories was they saw that we were coming all the way from North Carolina, and I think they figured we were some sort of all-star team coming up from North Carolina, and they kind of teamed us up or put us in a pool with some pretty tough teams. So,
wow.
But, oh well, it is what it is. We had fun. We had fun anyway. Got a chance to hang out with some cousins of mine that play hockey, and just made a big family event out of it.
Yeah, that's good. That's good, Wayne. I thought about you down here. There's a lot going on, so I was hoping. And you responded. So I'm glad. Yep. I'm glad things went well, and I'm glad you had safe driving too. With, this time of year.
Yep. Yeah. Actually, I was surprised. I've never driven the East Coast, North Carolina to Maine trip, where you're basically going through D.C., Baltimore, New York City, Philadelphia. Basically all the big cities on the East Coast. I've never made that trip in the wintertime. This was the first time I've done it, and it felt like only about half the traffic of what we normally saw in the summertime. Mm. So I was asking my son, I said, is it really true that half the traffic that we experience in the summertime is all people on vacation going up and down the East Coast? I mean, it must be, because we had much less traffic than we're used to, both going up and back. So that was good. We made probably great, the best time we ever made on the trip up and back, because I think we only lost about 20 minutes due to traffic jams going up, and maybe 15 minutes on the way back due to traffic jams. Normally it's an hour or 2 that we lose to traffic jams. So I was very happy with that too.
That's good.
We made great time.
Good.
So, all right, well, let's move on. We've got to talk about some hockey, and we'll start with the NHL, and we always start with our teams.
Yeah.
And I was actually able, even though we were on the road and playing hockey and everything else, I was actually able to catch all of Boston's games while we were there because I stayed with an uncle of mine, and he's a big Bruins fan too, so he made sure that we had the games on, and I never had anything going on during the Bruins, so I was able to catch all their games while we were up there.
That's good.
So, but
Hottest team in the NHL.
Hottest team in the NHL, that's right. But going back, all the way back to where we left off from last show, on the 3rd, Boston beat Toronto 4-1, which was a great win for them, considering they're neck and neck with Toronto right now in the playoff race. And then on the 6th, they played Detroit, beat them at Detroit. And then on the 7th, they got a big 6-1 win against the Rangers. That one I actually watched sitting in the hotel room in Boston. That was the night we were traveling north. And I kept sitting there feeling real bad for you.
Oh, man, yeah. It was never a game. It was never a game. That one I don't have I really don't have anything to say about it. You know, it was never a game. It was never a contest, and they didn't play. They were never in that game.
But I believe it is, in fact, the first time the Bruins have beat the Rangers since you and I have been doing this podcast.
And that's surprising. I thought you guys had beat us before now. I'll take your word for it, Wayne. But
no, the Rangers have a couple of overtime wins over Boston, but I don't believe Boston has any wins over the Rangers in the couple of years that we've been doing the podcast. So the Bruins broke a losing streak there in a big way that night. But we'll get to the Rangers in a second. But yeah. that was a nice win for them. And then they went to Buffalo on the 10th. Actually, it was a home game against Buffalo. Big trap game, and they ended up they just didn't play well that night, and they ended up losing that game 4-2 to the Buffalo Sabres. So, I mean, give Buffalo credit. They're playing well right now. I'm not sure why all of a sudden they decided to play really well, but they have been playing well. Unfortunately, Jack Eichel got hurt in that game, so he's going to be out for a little while, high ankle sprain. But
right.
But Buffalo's been playing really well because a couple nights after they beat Boston, they turn around and beat Tampa Bay a couple of nights later. So, so Buffalo, even though they're way out of the playoff picture, they're not going to make it no matter how long of a streak they go on. Couple of real good wins against some real good teams in Boston and Tampa Bay there for the Buffalo Sabres. So, but yeah, the Bruins did kind of trip up there a little bit, but since then they turned around, got a couple of wins. They had a 5-3 win at New Jersey on the 11th, and then most recently on the 13th, a 5-2 win against Calgary. So, a whole bunch of wins for Boston, continuing on their hot streak. Again, they've only lost 2 games in regulation since, mid-November? Something like that. I'd have to look up the date, but yeah, Boston right now is the hottest team in the NHL, like you said earlier.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it.
Yeah. All right, well, let's talk Rangers for a little bit.
You sure you want to talk about it? I can talk to you about them. The very first game that is listed here, and I know it's going way back, was against Nashville. And I think I texted you a lot that night, and yep. I certainly I think that started a precedent. I mean, I wrote down quickly here before our podcast, guys that are out injured, and practically our entire top 6 is out. And if you count Brendan Smith going down on waivers to Hartford, 5 of our 6 defensemen are not even playing, so they're injured. And when you throw Chris Kreider in on that, and Pavel Buchnevich, and most of our team, Jimmy Vesey just came back, is hurt. So we're going through difficult times. Back when we played Nashville, though, we had Jimmy Vesey and we had Mark Stahl on the squad. And I don't know if you had a chance to watch that game, but that particular game was one of the worst officiated games I have ever seen in my life in any sport. And it was, you don't hear me on this podcast a lot crying about, or whining about stuff like that. But that really was a game where the officials lost control of the
Wow.
game.
Yeah, you had texted me about that, and I never did have a chance to go back and actually watch that game to see for myself what it looked like. But
Now,
yeah.
I've looked at the I know that Philip Forsberg received a 3-game suspension for his elbow to the head of Jimmy Vesey. Okay, so that one did get some sort of retribution.
Supplemental discipline, yeah.
But the hit for that Alexei Emelin made on Mark Stahl, and he's still out. He might not return. I don't know how serious his injury is, but he's not skating or practicing. And it's indefinite. There's no. I haven't heard that he's coming back at this point. Now, maybe I'm not in tune on the news, but it was a very severe hit. Boarded into Yemelin left his feet, and they definitely put him into the boards. And Mark Stahl was off the ice very quickly. I was proud of him getting up and skating off the ice, but it was obvious he was very hurt. And then I don't know how many minutes later came the hit on VC. They took a goal away from us. Wow. That was scored. So, which was a razor sharp call. I mean, I heard it said that it was the right call to make, and maybe there was offsides on that play, but it was debatable. So the bottom line of it is, when we got to the third period in that game, and we had chances to at least tie or lead that game, but that took 2 players out of the game for us. And it was, I mean, you've played hockey before. When you see players on your team, when you see that kind of thing going on and no calls made by the officials, no penalties, no nothing, then you have a goal taken away. It's hard to compete, much less win a game.
Yep, it is.
I'm sure when you get into the locker room, there's all kinds of chatter going on, but it's very hard to come back from that.
Yep.
And in the third period, when Cody McLeod, and I wish I could remember, I could go back, but I wish I could remember what player for Nashville. But, I mean, he knocked the guy to the ice right in front of the official, and no call was made. And you can't tell me that if you replay that, the official did not see it. It was done right in front of his face. It was right in front of the official. It was a blatant hit to the ice. That told me everything I needed to know. They weren't going to call that. I don't know if in their minds they felt that was a makeup call by not doing anything. But basically, their silence, not calling that penalty on Cody McLeod, was, in my mind, spoke volumes, was very loud. That, hey, we lost control of this game, and, we're doing our best here to make up for it. By not calling, fortunately, it didn't break out into a mass fight on the ice, but it was disheartening to watch. So enough about that game. We lost it 5-2, and there's no getting it back. But that has an effect with a team that's that's hurting, a lot of players out, and having to bring a lot of guys in that have never played in the NHL level before. So that's what's happening with our team. We lost to Dallas on February 5th in a very closely contested game, but again, came up short. I've already talked to you about the Boston game.
Yep.
We were really never in that game. And again, those 3 games right there, they hurt. I thought something was going to happen with the team at that point, but that's when there was a letter came out.
Yep, I saw that. Yeah.
From upper management, from Jeff Gorton and Glenn Sather, that there are going to be changes. I guess expect them to happen. Trade deadline. Now, I don't know if it's a trade that's going to take place on or before then. or what that actually meant. But let it suffice to say that I think Rick Nash is involved in this, and I just get the feeling they've asked him for a list of teams he would be traded to. So that's where things are with our team right now. We were able to come out. We played very well against Calgary this past weekend, and then went into Winnipeg and won a very, very good game on Sunday. I think it was Sunday night against a good team. Minnesota, they made some bad mistakes in the first 4 minutes into the game. We were down 3-0, and then that was it. After that, we came back. It was 3-2, but you're not going to be able to, when you dig yourself a hole. And you're chasing the game. You're not going to be able to come back and win all those. So, yep. Hopefully, they have a good game tonight against the Islanders. But we'll see. I'm not ready to say that they're not if they play well, that they could come back and make the playoffs, but the chances of it are dwindling.
Yeah, and there's a lot of chatter around the league that the Rangers have already made up their mind that they're going to be a seller at the trade deadline to try to do something to bolster their prospect pool, because it's become clear with all these injuries that the Rangers just don't have enough depth in the organization. We saw the same issue in Boston at the beginning of the year when the Bruins were going through a bunch of injury issues. Their guys went down, but the Bruins brought up a bunch of players, and they continued to play at least at the 500 level anyway, so they stayed afloat until their established stars got back.
Right.
But the Rangers have been filling in their gaps in their lineup with guys that are just simply not they're not quality NHL players. So it's became pretty obvious to most people that the Rangers need to rebuild or regroup or whatever they call it, retool. They're obviously not going to blow up the whole team and rebuild it, or who knows, maybe they will. But I know Rangers fans in general don't have the patience for that, so they gotta figure out a way to retool without completely blowing up the team. I mean, they've got some good pieces there, provided they're healthy. But yeah, you've seen a lot of rumors with McDonough. You've seen, and they flat out sent, what's his name, down to the minors, and he made it through waivers. Nobody picked him up.
Yeah, Brendan Smith.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They sent him to the minors. Nobody even picked him up, to my knowledge.
Right. He's on the Hartford Wolfpack right now.
So
that in and of itself was puzzling to me, because he was a top 6 defenseman. But
some of the comments I saw about him from the management of the Rangers and the coaching staff was that they gave him plenty of chances to turn his game around, and he just, for whatever reason, he just isn't the same player he was when they first got him.
Right.
And they've given him plenty of chances to turn his game around. They've worked with him. They've put conditioning coaches with him. They put one-on-one coaches with him, and just nothing has changed. So they finally said, they believe he's just killing them, so they sent him down.
Yeah. Well, he's one of several players who have had consistency problems.
Yeah.
Of late, and there's a lot of things going on there. So we'll see what happens. I think I'm a positive guy and stay positive about things, and I continue to remain positive that whatever is in store for the Rangers as far as the team goes up through the 26th here. And it's not very much time left. If they have a deal in the works or they're close on something, there's not much time left before the trade deadline.
Yeah.
So it might not be something that gets settled by then. Who knows?
Yeah.
We'll just have to wait and see. Right now,
they're still only 4 points out of a playoff spot, so they're not completely out of it yet. But it's looking pretty grim right now.
Yeah, it's not looking. And you never know. they've got to probably put together 35, 36 points, and they've got 25 games to do it.
Yep.
So we'll see. Every game is important. They can't afford to drop games.
Nope.
And we'll see. We'll see what happens. It does hurt. I don't think Andre Pavlik is near the quality of a backup goalie that Antti Ranta was. But they've got this guy Georgiev who's up from the Hartford Wolfpack, and if he gets a chance to play, he may really fight for that backup position.
Yep.
We'll just have to wait and see. But that's been a problem too.
Well, the unfortunate part is right now the Rangers are having to ride Henrik Lundqvist basically every game he's having to play. So even if the Rangers do get themselves back into the playoff spot, they're going to end up burning out Lundqvist in the process, and he's not going to have anything left if they do make the playoffs once they do get in. So there's that concern too.
Right.
So,
we'll have to see. He's had a good year.
It's amazing how this year has turned around. The Rangers started the year on fire. Boston was struggling, and now it's turned around, come completely the other way.
Well, actually, we played terrible the first 15 games of the season, and then caught on.
Yeah.
So we had a terrible start. But I think you can attribute a big part of this to injuries. And not being ready for those injuries that inevitably come to just about every team.
Well,
but it hit us hard. It's taken out our entire defense corps. So
yeah, you've got way more injuries on the Rangers right now than most teams have. But the good things for them is the Metropolitan Division is a dog race right now, and it's just a madhouse rush for those playoff spots. I mean, the Rangers are sitting there in last place right now, but they're still only 4 points out of a playoff spot, and they're only 11 out of first place. So
yeah,
so it's kind of crazy how tight that division is. So all they need to do is they need to get themselves back on, get the train back on the tracks and get going again. But you've got teams like the Islanders and Columbus who are fading. You've got New Jersey who's showing signs of fading, although right now they're missing Corey Schneider. Once he comes back, I would expect New Jersey to get things back going again. And I don't know. You just never know, really.
No, you don't. You don't. And who knows? Confidence is a big thing, Wayne.
Yep.
You get a few wins under your belt, and they definitely in their last 3 games have played well. So you never know. You never know. And they're on a 4-game road trip. So they've won 2. Hopefully they can win against the Islanders tonight. You never know. They're in Ottawa on Saturday, so we'll see.
Those are definitely winnable games.
Right.
And if the Rangers are going to climb back in it, games against the teams in their division are must-wins for them. Like that game for the Islanders tonight, if they're going to drop one game or the other between the Islanders and Ottawa, they've got to have 2 points against the Islanders. Right. And they almost need to do it in regulation. And the games against Ottawa, they need points in that one too, but it's really not a big deal if they lose that one. As long as they continue to beat the teams in their own division, that's where they're going to climb back into this thing, is those division head-to-head games.
Oh, you're right. That's absolutely correct. Although I disagree to a certain extent that a game against teams like Ottawa, games against Ottawa, Buffalo, to a certain extent, Florida, Detroit is climbing back into this. If you're paying attention to, they're only 4 points behind the Rangers, and I don't know. Florida is in that position too, but I don't see them as being nearly as good as Detroit's playing right now. You've got to win those games too.
That is true. You got to beat the teams that are behind you in the division. Yeah.
We play Tampa Bay and we lose in.
So maybe
Tampa
Ottawa's a bad example, but if they were to play Toronto or Tampa Bay,
right?
If they're going to lose those games, as long as they're beating those division teams,
But if
Right.
they beat their division rivals and beat the teams below them in the standings, that's where they're going to climb back in.
Right.
So,
We'll
all right.
we'll see how it goes.
Now, speaking of division rivals, we got to talk about Carolina a little bit because
Yeah.
they're our local team, and unfortunately for you, they're one of the teams that the Rangers are battling with for a playoff spot.
That's right.
But Carolina is getting hot again. Going back to the second, they got a win against Detroit at home. That was a 4-1 game. On the fourth, they lost to San Jose at home. And then on the 6th, they lost a 2-1 game at home against Philadelphia. And then it was after that game that Carolina's coach basically in the press just outed his team. I don't know if you saw any of those comments Bill Peters had about his team. He just, he said, I'm paraphrasing, but he said in a nutshell, I'm sick and tired of the inconsistency with this team, and I'm tired of not knowing whether or not the team is, what team you're going to see from one night to the next. That's been a problem that's plagued the Carolina. He said there's a number of players that are content with losing on the team. He made a bunch of comments in the press about his team, basically calling out, not by name, but he was calling out his team.
Right.
And several members of his team. And that has seemed to light a fire under them because since he did that after the Philadelphia game, Carolina's won 3 in a row. They had a 4-1 win against Vancouver at home, a 3-1 win against a very good Colorado team at home, and then a 7-3 win against L.A. in their most recent game. That was on the 13th. So They've won 3 in a row since then. They're back in a playoff spot. They're sitting in that number 2 wild card spot as of right now. And they're 1 point ahead of Columbus and 3 points ahead of the Islanders with a game in hand against the Islanders. So, and they're 4 points up on the Rangers.
Right.
And they've been playing very well lately.
Right.
So whether or not they continue that is another question. But I believe they are playing tonight against I can't remember. Is it the Devils? They're playing tonight.
Let me see, Wayne. They are playing the New
Yes.
Jersey Devils.
They're
Yes.
at New Jersey tonight. So,
Yep.
And that's one thing that Carolina's had in their favor too. This month in particular is how many road games that they're not playing right now. I think they had something of 10 or 11 home games and only like 3 or 4 road games in the month of February because they played a very road-heavy schedule the first half. So that has given Carolina a bit of an advantage as well. So,
Right.
but that all the home games that they've had this month has kind of evened things out for them. So they should kind of even out the rest of the way. But yeah, Carolina now is sitting in that number 2 wild card spot, and people around here are pretty excited about it
Yeah, they are.
because you got the new owner. He's doing a lot of things to try to bring the fans. They were playing Brass Bonanza recently at a game,
Yeah.
which
Yeah, you can tell
got a
me.
lot of press. So
Yeah.
it should be interesting to see
Right.
going forward how they do. And I know I've got one more game that I've got to attend with Carolina, and that's the Bruins game on March 13th. So I'll be there for that one. I don't know if I'll make it to any other Carolina games this year or not, but we'll see.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. Well, actually, let's take a quick look at the standings. It's been a few weeks since we've looked at that, so let's update everybody in the standings where everybody is right now. Starting with the East. In the Metro, your top 3 are Washington with 71, Pittsburgh with 68, Philly with 66. The top 3 in the Atlantic, these 3 teams are way ahead of the Metropolitan. Tampa with 79, Boston with 78, and Toronto with 75. So it's a 3-way race in that division, but they're head and shoulders above the 3 in the Metro right now.
Right.
And I think it's due to the competition. The Metro, they're all closely bunched together. And then the Atlantic is basically these 3 teams, and then everybody else is way behind. You'll see that in a second. Sitting in the wild card, New Jersey is at 64, Carolina at 63, and then on the outside looking in is Columbus with 62, the Islanders with 60, Rangers 59, Florida with 56, Detroit at 55, Montreal at 51, Ottawa at 47, Buffalo at 44. So the bottom 5 teams in the conference are in the Atlantic Division. So,
Right.
which explains why Toronto, Tampa Bay, and Boston are pretty much. I would say they're pretty much locked into a playoff spot. Those 3 teams, because between Toronto and Florida, it's a 19-point swing.
Yeah. Well, none of those teams. I don't think any of those teams. Florida, Detroit. Detroit has played the best recently of those teams, but I don't think any of those teams are going to make the playoffs. I think you can say conclusively that those teams. I don't think they'll get in. I just don't.
Yeah, it'll take a miracle for Detroit and Florida to get in, because they're quite a ways back right now. Florida's 8 points back. Detroit is 9. Montreal, Ottawa, Buffalo are definitely out. They're way too far back at this point.
Right.
But it would definitely take. It's not completely out of question for Florida, Detroit to get in, but they're going to have a huge finish, and some teams that are ahead of them are going to have some pretty big collapses in order for them to get in. So,
Right.
in the Western Conference, you've got Nashville, Winnipeg, and St. Louis leading the Central. Nashville at 77, Winnipeg 75, St. Louis 72. And in the Pacific, Vegas is still the number 1 team, and they're up by 10 points now.
Yeah.
Vegas is at 78, San Jose at 68, Calgary at 66. And then the 2 wild cards right now are out of the Central, Dallas with 70, and Minnesota with 68. And then on the outside looking in is Colorado at 66, Los Angeles 65, Anaheim 65, Chicago 56, Edmonton 50, Vancouver 50, Arizona with 40.
Right. I think if you look at the West now, and it's hard to believe I'm saying this, but I think Chicago
They're out.
is out.
Yep.
I don't think they're going to make it.
They've lost 5 in a row now.
Yep. So you see some teams, Edmonton and Chicago,
Yep.
that were expected to be at least making it through the first round of the playoffs. Actually,
Yep.
I know I think I picked both of those teams.
A lot of people had Chicago Edmonton in the Western Conference final.
Right.
And now neither one's going to make the playoffs.
Neither one of them will.
Yep.
So I think what you see is a developing big change in the power of the NHL and teams that were on top. Now Edmonton can come back next year. I don't know if Chicago is in trouble, and we'll see what happens. But and on top of that, the 3 teams, Anaheim, the Kings, and Colorado, any of those teams can make it.
Yeah, they're not that far back. They're
No
only
problem at all. I have no problem. I see Anaheim making the playoffs. I see the Kings making the playoffs.
Yep.
There's
Especially where the Kings just added Dion Phaneuf to their team, which we'll get to that trade later on in the show. But he'll be a huge help for them,
right,
for sure. But yeah, I mean Anaheim is the worst team of that bunch on the outside, and they're still only 3 points back. I mean they could be in a playoff spot by the end of the weekend. Never mind the end of the season. So
right.
Yeah, that could go any way. So right now we're looking at in the West, it's a 11-team race for 8 playoff spots at this point.
Right.
So yeah, we're starting to see more and more teams drop out of the playoff picture at this point.
I think what you're looking at is 11 teams in each conference.
Yep.
With the Rangers, we'll see. We'll see. I have faith. I'm keeping my faith. We'll see what happens. It might only be 10 teams in the East.
Yep.
But that's a big change from a couple of weeks ago, Wayne.
Yep.
When we had all the way down to Chicago. We were putting our fork in Edmonton, but you're starting to see teams slip out quite quickly now.
Yep.
And so it's
Should
that time
be.
of year, man.
Should be
Every
interesting what Chicago decides to put up there on the trade market. Honestly, I don't see Kane or Taves going anywhere because no one wants those ginormous contracts that those two guys carry. Not to
right.
mention the fact that they have no trade clauses and would have to agree to any trade anyway. But it'd be interesting to see what else Chicago puts out there for trade bait.
It will be. And you never know. Some blockbuster deals may get done at this trade deadline versus last year. We were sitting here talking about it, and we
not
weren't
much
sure.
happened last year.
Really, not much.
Yeah.
I agree. So this could be a big one this year.
Yep. Well, we'll see. All right. Well, let's talk some transactions, shall we? We already touched on a few of them. First and foremost, the Vancouver Canucks general manager Jim Benning signed a multi-year contract extension on Wednesday. Benning is in his 4th season as general manager of Canucks after replacing Mike Gillis, who was fired after the 2013-14 season, and is in the final season of his contract. Before coming to Vancouver, he spent 8 seasons as the assistant GM of the Bruins and helped build the team that defeated the Canucks in the 2011 Stanley Cup Final. The Canucks reached the Stanley Cup playoffs in Benning's first season as GM, but have finished next to last in the Western Conference in each of the past 2 years. Under first-year coach Travis Green, they're 22-28-6 this season, 18 points behind Minnesota Wild for the second wildcard spot into the playoffs from the Western Conference, entering their game against the Florida Panthers last night. Benning has brought in a number of prospects, though, most notably forward Brock Besser, who leads NHL rookies with 26 goals. He's also traded forwards Yannick Hansen and Alexander Burrows for prospects Nikolai Goldobin and Jonathan Dahlin, and selected center Elias Pettersson with the number 5 pick of the 2017 NHL draft. So obviously they feel that he's doing a good job there at rebuilding that team. This is going to be a multi-year project for them if they want to build a very strong team. It's not going to be an overnight turnaround for Vancouver, because they've been sliding for quite a while. But they have shown some improvement this year over last year. So,
right. An exciting player in Brock Besser, too. So
yeah, they've got Besser and Pettersson. When he finally makes the team, he's going to be a good one, too. So,
right.
So yeah, rightly so. They should give Benning at least a few more years to continue doing what he started.
Right.
All right, Dion Phaneuf was traded to the LA Kings by the Ottawa Senators for forwards Marian Gaborik and Nick Shore on Tuesday. Forward Nate Thompson and Phaneuf will go to Los Angeles. Phaneuf will likely play in the top 4 that includes Drew Doughty, Jake Muzzin, and Alec Martinez. Phaneuf had 16 points in 53 games for the Senators this year, including a 6-3 loss at the Pittsburgh Penguins on Tuesday. Thompson was injured and has played 4 games since January 5th. Gaborik and Shore played the end of a 7-3 loss to the Carolina Hurricanes. I was actually surprised when you sent me the message about that trade, because I just finished watching the game and I'm like, wait a minute, didn't Gaborik just play against the Hurricanes? He, in fact, did.
Yeah.
And it was right after that game that they traded him.
I'm gonna wait till you finish. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Right. And Gaborik is signed through the 2021 NHL season. Ottawa will retain 25% of the remaining money on his contract. And we're talking about Phaneuf, obviously.
Right.
Shore has 15 points in 49 games this year and 49 points in 221 games with the Kings. The 25-year-old can become a restricted free agent on July 1st. Gaborik has 14 points in 30 games this year. And I lost my place. Yeah, 14 points in 30 games this season and 808 points in 1,019 NHL games with the Wild, Rangers, Blue Jackets, and Kings. The 36-year-old is signed through 2021. He has 22 points in 26 playoff games, winning the Stanley Cup with LA in 2014. Thompson has 11 points in 43 games this season and 122 points in 593 NHL games with the Bruins, Islanders, Lightning, Ducks, and Senators. The 33-year-old is signed through next season.
Right.
So a bunch of pieces that Ottawa can use. Obviously, the Gaborik that Ottawa is getting is not the Gaborik that was lighting up the scoreboard in years past. But
Right. Now he was playing well though as a veteran. But here's
yeah,
I don't know. I guess Dion Phaneuf can help them on the defensive core, and they're talking about him being top 4 defenseman for them. And he's a veteran, so he probably will fit in LA because they're an older veteran team. But I don't know that he brings a lot to the table. Maybe he will. But I don't know about this trade. I really don't. I feel like they got rid of a guy in Marian Gaborik who does still score.
yep.
He's still a good skater. Yeah, he doesn't have a lot of time left.
You know what it seems to me is a bit of a salary dump to make room for. Sounds like Ottawa wants to be active either at the trade deadline in adding prospects and such, or at the very least in the offseason to add a free agent or so.
Or sign Eric Carlson.
Or get Eric Carlson signed. Yeah, that was the other thing I was going to say is they had to get rid of Dion Phaneuf's salary. Well, they managed to get rid of 75% of the salary, which is quite significant. So you're getting a prospect. I don't know if you want to call him a prospect. He's 24. In Shore. But a serviceable NHL player nonetheless. Gaborik, who's at the twilight of his career. But the two players going the other way are both up there in age. You've got Phaneuf, who's got only a few years left, if that. And Thompson is 33 himself. So yeah, to me it just felt like a bit of a salary dump for Ottawa to just get rid of most of Phaneuf's contract. And I think, like you said, is either making room for them to be a little bit more active in the offseason, or it's to make room for, and maybe a little bit of both, to get Eric Carlson signed because he's going to command a pretty big salary.
Right. I think if the Kings make the playoffs, they'll be glad they have Dion Phaneuf with his experience and his abilities on the ice, bar none. He'll be very good in the locker room and all of that. If the Kings don't make the playoffs, I'm interested to see what they do in the offseason because on its face, I understand why Ottawa made the trade. I don't understand why LA did.
Well, I think LA has, I think LA is basically taken on Phaneuf as a rental. Phaneuf isn't the offensive guy that he used to be. He used to put up a lot of points.
Right.
He's more of a stay-at-home guy now in his later years in his career. But he's a very good one. And he brings a lot of grit and toughness, and maybe that's LA's approach.
Right.
To making the playoffs is to get a lot tougher around their own goal. They're already one of the better defensive teams in the West. They just got a little bit better in that sense.
Yep.
So, because they need to make sure they protect Quick. If he gets hurt, they're done.
Oh yeah. But they've done better than you and I thought they would. Well, I actually was. I got to say, I thought they might make the playoffs, but they've done better than people thought.
Yep. Yeah, and they still could. They're only 3 points out right now.
Right.
All right, let's move to the next one. Lars Eller signed a 5-year, $17.5 million contract with the Washington Capitals on Saturday. The contract has an average annual value of $3.5 million. The 28-year-old center, who could have become an unrestricted free agent on July 1st, has 28 points this season. The Capitals acquired Eller on June 24th, 2016 in a trade with Montreal for a second-round pick in the 2017 NHL Draft and a second-round pick in the 2018 NHL Draft. So obviously they re-signed him to get a little bit more back on their investment, because giving up 2 second-round draft picks for him, if he would have left, that would have been an ugly trade for them.
Right.
So
Agreed.
they're obviously happy with his services. They're going to keep him around.
Right.
All right, and now talking a little bit about the Rangers, defenseman Brendan Smith was placed on waivers by the Rangers last Thursday. Smith, who turned 29, signed a 4-year, $17.4 million contract, which carries an average annual value of $4.35 million with the Rangers on June 29th, and has 8 points in 44 games this season. Smith was not claimed by any other NHL team and was sent to Hartford, the Rangers affiliate in American Hockey League, on Friday. Smith has 79 points in 353 games in 7 NHL seasons with the Red Wings and Rangers. Red Wings selected him with the 27th pick in the 2007 NHL draft. The Rangers got Smith in a trade with the Red Wings close to the trade deadline last year for a third-round pick in the 2017 NHL draft and a second-round pick in the 2018 NHL draft. So obviously, the Rangers sending him down is they're sending a clear message to him that obviously he's not playing well enough at the NHL level, and maybe sending him to the minor leagues is going to be a last-ditch effort to light a fire under him and get him back on track.
I really felt he played well last season when they got him. I felt he was doing really well.
Because I see why now. That nobody claimed him as poorly he's played.
Yeah.
To be making $4.35 a year for 4 years. Yeah, I can see why no teams want to touch that.
Yep. Yeah. So we'll see. I don't know if we'll see him back up in the bigs again. We'll see. I've been impressed with John Gilmore, the guy they've called up, who basically is, I would have to say, one of their top 4 defensemen now. Based on the injuries and the status of everything, he's put together a couple good games. So we'll see what happens. Yep. I would say that he's probably the one that took the place of Brendan Smith.
Oh yeah, most of that undoubtedly. All right, and then some other minor transactions that have happened over the past week. Are starting to see the trade deadline. As we get closer, things are heating up. But there's a bunch of other minor trades going on. Today, the Blues acquired Nikita Shoshnikov from the Toronto Maple Leafs in exchange for a 4th-round pick in 2019 NHL drafts. So that gives St. Louis a little bit more depth there. Shoshnikov wasn't playing a whole lot for Toronto, given how many strong forwards that they have there. So they were able to deal from a position of strength to load up on draft picks there. So, and Shoshnikov should probably get more playing time with St. Louis. Also today, the Blackhawks acquired forward Chris DiDomenico from Ottawa in exchange for defenseman Ville Pocca. Minor trade there. A couple of days ago on the 13th, the Kings acquired defenseman Dion. Oh, that's the Dion Phaneuf trade. February 9th was the one before that. The Capitals acquired forwards Adam Chapey and Joe Whitney from the Rangers in exchange for forward John Albert and defenseman Hubert Labrie. All those players are playing for minor league affiliates at this point. New Jersey Devils acquired forwards Christoph Berchi and Mario Lucia from Minnesota in exchange for defenseman Victor Louvre. And then LA Kings acquired future considerations from the Golden Knights in exchange for defenseman Zach Leslie. Back on February 3rd, Dallas Stars acquired defenseman Andrew O'Brien from Nashville Predators in exchange for forward Mark McNeil. So all very minor trades in the grand scheme of things going on so far. All right. Did you see any other transactions you want to talk about?
No.
Okay.
No, I haven't.
Right.
I think we got them.
All right. Let's move on to injuries because there were quite a few.
Number of them.
Goaltender Brian Elliott's expected to miss 5 to 6 weeks after having surgery to repair a core muscle injury. Philadelphia Flyers general manager Ron Hextall said Tuesday Elliott was injured while facing Clayton Keller in the second round of the shootout during a 4-3 victory of the Arizona Coyotes on Saturday. He slumped to the ice and had to be helped off after being hit in the mask by Keller's stick on his follow-through. Neuwirth got the win in relief after he had denied all 5 shooters he faced. Neuwirth, who started against the Devils at Wells Fargo Center on Tuesday, is going to get the majority of the playing time in Elliott's absence. Alex Lyon, who was recalled from Lehigh Valley of the American Hockey League on Sunday, will be the backup for the foreseeable future. So there's an opportunity for the Rangers there to make up some ground with Elliott being out and Neuwirth being forced into that starting role. Calgary Flames goaltender Mike Smith will miss at least 2 games because of a lower body injury. The first game that he missed was against the Bruins on Tuesday. And it looks like he'll only, or they have said that he'll miss the 2 games for sure, and then he'll be considered day-to-day after those 2 games. So was no details on what the injury was there. Lower body injury could be anything, knee, groin, for a goaltender.
Right.
Nobody knows what that's going to be.
You never know. He may have twisted his ankle.
Yeah, true.
For all you know.
Yep. So, but doesn't look like he's going to be out for long. So look for him to come back here in fairly short order. Defenseman Steven Kampfer will be out 4 to 6 weeks because of a fractured hand. Rangers general manager Jeff Gordon said on Monday. Kampfer, who has 1 assist in 22 games this season, played 22-39, was on the ice at the end of the 3-1 win at the Winnipeg Jets on Sunday. He's the latest Rangers defenseman to be sidelined by an injury, joining Ryan McDonough, Kevin Shattenkirk, and Mark Stahl. So, like you said, their entire defense corps.
Yeah, just about. With Brendan Smith gone on top of that. So.
Yep. New Jersey Devils goaltender Corey Schneider will be out the rest of the week because of a hip groin injury that he sustained in a 3-2 loss to the Boston Bruins back on January 23rd. Schneider, who's missed the past 8 games, was placed on injury reserve on Monday, retroactive to the day of the injury. He's expected to resume skating next week. He's 17-11-6 with his .279 goals against average and a .913 save percentage in 35 games. Clearly, he's New Jersey's number 1. Kincaid's been playing pretty well in his absence, but if the Devils want to make a strong playoff push, they definitely need Schneider back.
Right.
Sabres center Jack Eichel is out indefinitely after sustaining a high ankle sprain in a 4-2 win against the Boston Bruins on Saturday. Eichel left in the first period when he fell backward while being checked by the Bruins defenseman Matt Grzelcyk along the end boards. Chosen by the Sabres with the number 2 pick in the 2015 NHL Draft, Eichel leads the team with 53 points in 55 games this season. He missed the first 21 games of last season because of a high left ankle sprain that sidelined him for 7 weeks. So, injuries keep mounting up for Eichel. I mean, granted.
Yeah, and and I haven't heard this. I saw the injury, kept waiting to hear this. Is it the same ankle?
Well, this time I believe, was the right ankle. Right ankle. I don't know if it was his. Yeah, last season was the left ankle. So
it is the other ankle.
Yeah.
Gosh, let me tell you, that's tough.
Yep.
And that type of an injury, he might not be back.
Yeah, and there's no reason to rush him at this point. Buffalo's out of the playoff picture. They're not gonna make the playoffs, so there's no reason to rush him back at this point.
Right.
And another Rangers injury, goalie Andre Pavlik will be out 2 to 3 weeks with a sprained MCL. He was injured in the first period of a 4-3 win against the Flames on Friday. He made 7 saves and didn't return for the second period. Goalie Alexander Georgiev was recalled from Hartford on Saturday and will back up Henrik Lundqvist.
Yeah.
So we've already talked about that one.
Yeah.
Another goaltender injury, Malcolm Subban was placed on injury reserve by the Vegas Golden Knights with an upper body injury on Saturday. The backup goalie was injured during the morning skate prior to 4-3 win at San Jose on Thursday. Golden Knights coach Jared Gallant said there's no timetable for his return. Vegas recalled goaltender Maxime Legacy from Chicago, the American Hockey League. Subban is 11-3-1 with a 2.59 goals against average, .912 save percentage in 16 games. He missed 13 games earlier this season with lower body injury. So, again, Subban is becoming he's going to be labeled injury prone if he keeps getting hurt. But he did fill in admirably with Marc-Andre Fleury being hurt earlier in the year. But he is clearly the backup to Fleury at this point.
And played very well.
Yeah,
he's had a great season.
Yep.
It's a case where the change of venue, God.
Well, he wasn't gonna upstage Tuukka Rask in Boston, so.
Right. And I don't think he's going to upstage Marc-Andre Fleury yet.
No, but Fleury is a few years older than Rask. So,
he's doing very well.
So at least Subban has a future there.
He does. I guess he's performing at the level now that the Bruins wanted him to.
Yep.
So that's all you can say.
Yep. All right. San Jose Sharks forward Joel Ward will be out indefinitely because of a shoulder injury. He left a 5-3 loss to the Vegas Golden Knights on Thursday in the second period after Golden Knights defenseman Nate Schmidt hit him into the half wall in the Vegas zone, injuring his right shoulder. He has 11 points in 46 games this season and is in the last of a 3-year contract he signed back in 2015. So a depth player for San Jose. What is he, a third or fourth liner? But you hate to lose guys this close to the playoffs.
I agree. San Jose, that's going to be a very interesting fight they have ahead of them for the playoffs.
Yep.
And sure. Joel Ward is a very much needed guy when it comes to the playoffs.
Yep.
A lot of experience with the Capitals.
Agreed. All right. St. Louis Blues defenseman Joel Edmondson had surgery to repair a broken right forearm Friday and will be reevaluated in 6 weeks. Edmondson left a 6-1 win against the Avalanche on Thursday in the first period after he was hit by a shot. He was placed on injury reserve. Robert Bortuzzo took his place in the lineup against the Jets. Edmondson had 15 points and was averaging 20 minutes, 15 seconds of ice time in 56 games. He led the Blues and was fourth in the NHL with 125 block shots. And they recalled Chris Butler from San Antonio of the American Hockey League to take his place.
Mm-hmm.
But he's only played 6 games in the previous 2 seasons. So they're obviously calling on a bit of depth there to fill in. Hopefully for them, he'll be back for the playoffs. All right, and the last one I have is Calgary Flames forward Troy Brouwer is out week to week because of a facial fracture. Brouwer was injured when he got hit with a puck early in the first period of a 3-2 win in the Devils last Thursday. He left the game briefly before returning midway through the period and played 11:55. He has 15 points in 54 games this season. He missed 9 games in the past 7 seasons. So, guy that doesn't get hurt often is out week to week.
Yep.
So he'll probably start playing again as soon as he can play at the same level, so long as he has a cage on.
Right. And I did not, I watched the Calgary game this past weekend, and Troy Brouwer really he wasn't a major factor in that game. And he did play.
Yep.
Well,
he's a third liner / fourth liner.
Right. We'll see how it happens.
Yep.
There's a lot of injuries, and you were pretty thorough on them, I'll tell you.
Yep. Well, I wanted to get through them quickly because there was a lot of them.
Yeah.
All right, so let's move on to suspensions and fines. There's a fair amount of those this week, too.
Yes, there are.
Vegas Golden Knights defenseman Derek Engelland's been fined $2,688.17. The maximum allowable under the collective bargaining for cross-checking Chicago Blackhawks forward Brendan Saad during NHL game number 874 in Las Vegas on Tuesday. The incident occurred at 57 seconds of the first period. Engelland was assessed a minor penalty for high sticking. Didn't see that one. The ones that are just fines, I didn't really see, but I did went and look up all the ones where there were suspensions involved. So, so another fine we had this week. Washington Capitals defenseman Madison Bowie has been fined $1,890.68 for interference against Winnipeg Jets forward Matt Hendricks during game number 873 in Winnipeg on Tuesday, February 13th. So both of those fines were announced yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And Bowie had a minor penalty for interference. Now, one I did see, actually, no, I did not see this one. Winnipeg Jets defenseman Dustin Byfuglien was fined $5,000 for slashing Washington Capitals forward Jay Beagle during game number 873 in Winnipeg on Tuesday, February 13th. So, 2 fines in the same game. Capitals Bowie and Winnipeg Jets Dustin Byfuglien both gotten fines. Byfuglien's was for slashing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, to a suspension, LA Kings forward Dustin Brown has been suspended for 1 game without pay for kneeing Tampa Bay Lightning defenseman Mikhail Sergachev during NHL game number 846 on Tampa on Saturday, February 10th. And they announced this one on Sunday. The incident occurred at 14:27 in the second period. Brown was assessed a major and a game misconduct for kneeing. Under the terms of collective bargaining agreement, he will forfeit $31,586.02. So I saw that particular play, and I'm surprised he didn't get more than that. Probably the fact that Sergachev didn't really get hurt on the play, although it looked like it could have. It was the classic Brown went to hit Sergachev. I don't know if you saw the play.
I didn't see the play.
Sergachev was coming out of his own zone, heading diagonally through the neutral zone, and Dustin Brown went to hit him on an open ice hit. They were skating directly at each other, and it was one of those Sergachev went and made a move to avoid Brown, and Brown at the last second stuck his leg out there to try to make contact with him, and ended up getting a knee-on-knee hit with Sergachev.
Oh,
So
wow.
NHL puts those as very dangerous.
Yeah.
You know, those can cause knee injuries, and that is why they ultimately suspended him.
Right.
But the fact that he only got 1 game shows that he doesn't have much of a history. I think he had a couple of fines or a fine.
He had a
and
fine
suspension.
earlier. In fact, I think we talked about it in the last podcast.
Yeah, he doesn't have a clean record, but he doesn't have, he's certainly not Brad Marchand when it comes to having a record.
Right.
But yeah, he did get the 1 game on that one because it kind of was a bang play. It wasn't premeditated, and they explained that in the video. It wasn't premeditated. It was kind of a reaction play. He was reacting to Sergachev, who was about to basically sidestep the hit, and he just at the last second threw his leg out there. So 1 game for Brown. Now, as far as a premeditated one, this next one absolutely was premeditated, and I don't know if you saw it. And the reason I'm including because it happened almost 2 weeks ago, but it was a big one.
No, I saw it.
Ottawa Senators Alexander Burrows has been suspended for 10 games without pay for serving as aggressor in an altercation and kneeing New Jersey Devils forward Taylor Hall during NHL game number 816 on Ottawa back on February 6th. And they announced this a couple of days after the incident. The incident occurred at 10:02 of the second period. Burrows was assessed 2 minor penalties, 1 for cross-checking, and 1 for roughing. Under the terms of collective bargaining agreement and based on his average annual salary, Burrows will forfeit $134,408 and change. Your thoughts on this one?
Well done, NHL. This is one. I don't understand. I mean, we can get into it again. You don't want to hear me. If they're going to suspend him for this, why didn't they do that to Alexei Emelin and it's hit on Mark Stahl? He got absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
Why did they only give Philip Forsberg three games for his blatant elbow? I'm just talking about New York Rangers players But it's
Yep.
just, again, I see inconsistency. But I think it was the right call. I would have done it if I was in George Peros' shoes. I thought it was the right thing to do.
Yeah, and the initial altercation that Hall, it was a borderline hit, but I think ultimately it was a clean hit on Hall on Burrows. But Burrows just lost his mind and went after it. Now Burrows has a history too.
He snapped.
If you go back to and this isn't the only one, but this is the one that involves the Bruins, so I remember it. Go back to the 2011 Stanley Cup Final. Patrice Bergeron claimed that Burrows bit his finger in an altercation. It was like game 2, game 3, somewhere around there. It was early in the series. I think it was game 2. It was early in the series, but Burrows has the reputation in Boston, or they like to call him by his Boston name is Biting Burrows, because if you look at the replay, Bergeron's finger was in fact inside of Burrows' mouth. So, so I tend to believe what Bergeron said, but way back then, of course, that's old news now. That was
right.
Years ago. But Burrows has, and it's not his only incident, but he has a reputation of being edgy, kind of Marchand-like in the way he plays.
Right.
He doesn't have a lot of friends, we'll put it that way,
right,
around the league. So, and he was on top of Hall, and he was basically kneeing him in the head.
Yeah.
So yeah, he
snapped. He snapped. And it cost him $131,000.
Yeah, 10 games. It's what, 16% of the season, something like that. So yeah,
he's still sitting out on that one. So, I don't know. I agreed with the call. I agreed with the suspension. I thought it was the right thing to do. Maybe it will teach him a lesson in this instance.
Yep.
It was totally unnecessary what he did.
Yep, it sure was. I'll fix my board behind me.
I hear you.
Got my little board with all my logos on it behind me. Something different to look at behind me than what I've had in the past. All right, that's all we have for suspensions.
I had the other one, which was Philip Forsberg.
Oh, okay.
Left wing for the Predators. Interference against Jimmy Vesey. There was no penalty called on the play. He forfeited $96,774.18. He was suspended for 3 games. It was a blatant penalty. Should have been more than that, in my opinion. I don't know. That was a quick one, though. I wanted to throw that in there. That happened on February the 3rd, I believe, was the game against the Rangers.
Yep.
So.
All right. Other interesting stories we had going on this week or the past couple of weeks. First and foremost, we touched on at the top of the show. Seattle has officially applied for NHL expansion team, a group led by Jerry Bruckheimer, Hollywood producer, and David Bonnerman, private equity CEO, was authorized December 7th to file an application for expansion by the NHL Board of Governors. It paid a $10 million application fee. Man, I hope that goes into their expansion fee.
Oh, yeah. That's a good point.
Sportsnet reported. The cost of the team will be $650 million. I hope that $10 million goes towards that. We'll put it that way. And the NHL is looking... Gary Bettman announced during the NHL All-Star Weekend that NHL is looking at only Seattle for possible expansion. The earliest the team could begin play is in the 2021 season, when it is expected that renovations of Key Arena would be complete. Commissioner Bettman said he thinks if Seattle were to be granted the 32nd NHL team, he expected it would want the same rules for NHL expansion draft that were granted the Vegas Golden Knights, who came into the league as the 31st team this season. Vegas paid $500 million for their team. So I would expect that too. If we're going to pay $650 million for a team, I would want the same rules that Vegas got. I don't know whether they'll be able to repeat what Vegas has done.
Doubtful.
Doubtful, but
I don't think this is ever going to happen again, Wayne.
Maybe.
I think we're witnessing history.
Yeah, possibly. So yeah, so looks like Seattle's a go at this point.
Yep.
And the fact that he said only Seattle for expansion, so it looks like the NHL wants to stay at 32 for a little while. I have heard rumblings that the NHL long term, years out, wants to eventually get to 40 teams, but who knows if that's going to happen. But it looks like it'll be 32 for a little while anyway. So Quebec, Houston, if those cities are going to get a team, it's going to have to be a team that moves.
Oh, that's right.
All right, let's move on to the next story. Flyers center Claude Giroux, Calgary Flames left wing Johnny Gaudreau, and Minnesota Wild goaltender Devin Dubnyk have been named the NHL's 3 stars for the week ending February 11th. Giroux registered 6 points in 4 games to propel the Flyers to a perfect week in 3rd place in Metro Division. Gaudreau placed second in the NHL with 7 points in 4 contests to guide the Flames to a 3-1 week and into the 3rd place spot in the Pacific Division. Dubnyk went 2-0-1 with a 1.96 goals against average, .950 save percentage, and 1 shutout to backstop the Wild to 5 out of a possible 6 standing points. And going back to last week, Pittsburgh Penguins center Evgeny Malkin, Florida Panthers goaltender Harry Sateri, and Vegas Golden Knights right wing Riley Smith were named the NHL's 3 stars for the week ending February 4th. All right, kudos to all those guys. Did you see Sidney Crosby got his 400th goal?
Yes, I did.
For the Penguins.
Watched him score that one and then the 401st goal of his career.
Yeah, that one happened on Sunday. Obviously, I didn't see that game. I actually saw it. It was on in the lodge at the pond hockey tournament that I was at, but I wasn't really watching the game. But it was on TV that day over there.
Mm-hmm.
He's the 95th player in NHL history and the 7th active player to score 400 goals and the 37th to do so in 839 games or fewer.
Mm-hmm. Well, kudos to him. Still up there. If he's not the best player in the game, he's the 2nd best player in the game. So congratulations to him.
Yep. And more to come. I mean, 500 is practically inevitable at this point.
Yep.
So.
No problem.
And also the last honor of the week that I have, Vinny Lecavalier had his number retired to the rafters at Amalie Arena on Saturday. So his number 4.
Yes, and that's real quick. He was a great player, and I think he may make the Hall of Fame.
Oh yeah,
possibly.
Oh yeah,
I think. Marty St. Louis is going to make the Hall of Fame. I think Vinny Lecavalier is going to make the Hall of Fame as well. It might not be a few years down the line, but that's the right thing to do. He definitely deserves to have his jersey retired, and he was a great player for the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Yep. Even though there were rumors towards the end of his career about possible trades, but yeah, he had a great career, and he'll be a very good Hall of Famer in years to come.
Yeah.
So, all right. That's all the news stories I have for the week.
That's all Wayne, we talk about things together on stuff. I do not have another news story to report.
Okay. Well, good. Well, that brings us to then the power rankings, and I have kind of forgotten whose turn it is. Is it my turn or is it yours?
It is your turn.
It is my turn. I did do one. Turn. I did do one just in case. So.
Okay. Yeah. No, it's your turn.
So I will go ahead and start at the number 16 spot. And at number 16, I've got Colorado, who's dropped a couple of spots since our last power ranking. Number 15, I've got Calgary, who's actually up from the 18th spot from last week. Number 14, I've got LA. Number 13, I've got Philadelphia. Number 12, I've got Pittsburgh. Number 11, I've got San Jose. Number 10, I've got Minnesota. They're up 7 spots from last year's. I think you had them at 17.
Yeah,
They're playing very well.
They are. They've come back.
Yep. Let's see. Minnesota at number 10. Number 9 is at St. Louis. Number 8 is Dallas. Number 7, I've got Toronto. Number 6, I've got Washington. Number 5, Winnipeg. Number 4, Nashville. Number 3, I've got Tampa, who was in the number 1 spot the last time we recorded.
Right.
But I've dropped them to 3. Even though they're still leading the league in points. And I'll explain why in a second. Number 2, I've got Vegas. And number 1 this week, probably the first time that we've put them there this season, I've got the Boston Bruins.
No, that's a fact. We have not had Boston in the number 1 seed.
And the reason I did that is Boston is only 1 point behind Tampa. And they have 2 games in hand on Tampa. Boston is also a plus 52. Tampa is only plus 50. So pound for pound, they're matching up with Tampa Bay right now and probably doing so slightly better. And the reason I have them at 1 and Tampa at 3, Vegas is actually right in there too. They've got 78 points, which is only 1 back of Tampa. And Vegas also has a game in hand on Tampa.
Right.
So just because they're playing very well too. So that's why I did Boston 1, Vegas 2, Tampa 3.
I think of these. Well, Boston's done nothing but surge, but I think of Tampa Bay and Vegas. Tampa Bay has been up there the whole time. They've been taking shots at people have come at them, and it's a tiring, long, grinding season to get through.
Yep.
And they may not even make the Eastern Conference Finals, and then again they might. But I wouldn't be surprised if this season takes its toll on them. You never know.
Now, make no mistake, I don't want Boston to ultimately win the President's Trophy because I believe there is a curse. Now, it doesn't always happen, but I do believe that more often than not, the team that wins the President's Trophy does not ultimately win the Stanley Cup.
Right.
It doesn't happen very often that a team wins the Stanley Cup after winning the President's Trophy. Season, like you said, is too long of a grind to stay that good for that long. So I kind of want Boston to drop down a little bit. But,
yeah.
I'm always afraid as good as Boston's playing right now that they may be peaking too early. But
right.
Let's hope that that's not the case for my sake anyway. All right, so let's look ahead to the week coming up. We've got, let's start with the Carolina Hurricanes because they're playing tonight. They're at New Jersey. And in fact, I have that game on above me. And as we speak, the Hurricanes are up 1-0 over the Devils right now. But it's early in the game, still in the first period.
Right.
They have the Islanders on the 16th. That's tomorrow. And then they have New Jersey on the 18th. So 2 games, New Jersey, 1 game against the Islanders, all conference opponents. My mind for Carolina, these are must-wins if they want to secure a playoff spot.
For a playoff position. That's right. Yep. I agree with you.
Now, the Rangers are also playing tonight.
We have the Islanders in the Barclays Center tonight. Don't know what the score is on that game. That's the 3rd of a 4-game road trip.
Do you want to know the score of that game?
If you've got it, great.
I've got it. It's 1-0 Islanders right now. But they're still in the first.
Okay.
So it's still
okay.
early.
Very good. And then Ottawa is on Saturday. We play Ottawa. I think it's a 2:00 game in Ottawa, And then on Sunday, NBC Game of the Week, we play the Philadelphia Flyers. And those are 3 games. I'll tell you right now, the situation with the Rangers is pretty dire. They've
They
got
need those wins too.
away with at least 2 wins in those 3 games. So we'll see what happens.
And Jersey just tied the game in Carolina. So, yeah, must wins for the Rangers and almost must wins for Carolina. They at least need to earn a split against the Devils in those 2 games. All right, the Bruins are doing the Western Canadian road trip this week. So they're at Vegas on the 17th. They're at Calgary on the 19th, and then they're at Edmonton on the 20th. So 3 games in 4 nights, but that's sandwiched by 3 days off going into that trip and 3 days off coming out of that trip. So kind of a weird schedule for the Bruins, but all winnable games because all 3 of those teams, Calgary's probably the best of the 3, but Vancouver, Edmonton have definitely been struggling this year.
Yep.
And looking ahead at the rest of the NHL schedule, again, it's a very heavy week of games. No days off for anybody in terms of we don't have any. I think the slowest night is a 3-game night next Wednesday and a 4-game night Friday night. But every other game, there's at least 6 games every night. So, yeah, so very busy week around the league as teams start to get into the playoff push. Now, in addition to all the games going on, we also have Olympic hockey.
That's correct.
And with that, let's lead into our minor league minute because you want to talk about the Olympics, and I also want to talk about the Olympics. But we'll start with yours because mine's kind of a piggyback on your story.
Okay. Well, mine. I got mine off of the Wisconsin Badgers website, actually. And I did some looking around on different stories. Settled on this one because, most importantly, because it's Team USA. But secondary, as you know, Tony Granato is the coach for Team USA this year, and he is the coach of the Wisconsin Badgers, and he is also a former Ranger. So I am closely watching Team USA. Hopefully we can get into the medals this year. I don't know whether that's going to happen, but Russia did lose yesterday.
Yep.
To Slovakia.
Yep. Yeah,
So
yesterday the men's tournament, women's tournament's been going on pretty much since right around the opening ceremony. So they've been playing all weekend. But the men's tournament actually didn't start until yesterday.
Right.
And it was only 2 games yesterday. There was Group B. In Group B, Slovakia played Russia.
Mm-hmm.
And, well, properly named Olympic athletes from Russia, not actual Team Russia. But anyway. So Slovakia, Russia. Slovenia played the United States. Both games were upsets. Slovenia beat the U.S. In overtime. And that was a 3-2 game. And Slovakia beat Russia 3-2.
In regulation.
So, yeah. Group B is turned upside down right now.
It's going to be interesting. And, of course, you know, you have your pre-tournament jitters. Anything can happen. I put that first game out of my mind. The Team USA got a point out of it and just move on from there.
Yep.
I'm not too worried about that at this point. But my article is in regards to Tony Granato and his feelings on Team USA. And it goes like this. Wisconsin coach Tony Granato says Team USA can compete with anyone in the world on the Olympic hockey stage. Robert De Niro, Al Pacino, when they make a movie of the saga of the 2018 USA men's hockey team, who gets to play you? Kurt Russell? Yeah, well, I don't know, Tony Granato, coach of Team USA and the Wisconsin Badgers, told Land of 10 recently. First of all, what I like, though, I like how we're going into this tournament. Russia's going to have a team with the most NHL experience. When you look at rosters and look at who should play really well, I think we're fighting along with the rest of the middle of the pack as far as personnel. And I don't think there's a clear favorite. Russia, I think, is a team that everyone expects to win. I don't think we're that far off from them. And I also think with how we play and how the team is put together, we can compete with anyone in the world. We just have to be the best for 13 days, Those 13 days start Wednesday morning when Team USA opens Winter Olympic tourney play in the Pyeongchang Games against Slovenia. With no NHL players allowed to participate, Granado's roster hails from all over the map. Literally 17 players from various European leagues, 3 from the AHL, and 4 from the college ranks. From 20-year-old Troy Terry to 39-year-old former forward Brian Giunta, it's a pack of mutts, a group of pups and old dogs trying to learn new tricks on the fly. Former USA Hockey General Manager Jim Johansson said it best. Of the 25 guys out there, there's 24 of them that have never worn an Olympic shirt before, said Granado. Currently on a 3-week sabbatical from the Badgers bench to run the show in South Korea at the invitation of Johansson, an ex-Wisconsin teammate who passed away last month. Excuse me for a second there. At the age of 53. The one thing that every American player is dreaming of is to put on the USA sweater and represent the country. And once you get that, there's that sensation that can translate to the style of hockey we like to play. And we have a lot of guys that I think will play the best hockey of their careers. They look at this as an opportunity they thought they'd never have. The communication that we have with these players, you can hear them skating on the other end of the phone with extreme excitement and anticipation and pride. And we're going to have to carry that over with how we play. The parallels to the USA team of 1980, the Miracle on Ice squad, coached by another Big Ten legend, former Minnesota coach Herb Brooks, are probably inevitably, and Granado notes, maybe a tad unfair too. I don't think we have to go into the thinking that we have to be a miracle team or have to be against all odds to be successful, the Wisconsin coach said. We're at a different stage with where we are as far as Team USA hockey is concerned. It's certainly a different vibe given the lack of NHL star power, as well as being the first men's Olympic team since 1972 that doesn't feature a former Wisconsin player on the roster. It does, however, have 2 on the bench in Granado and assistant Chris Chelios, the former NHL great who captained Team USA. And I didn't know this till I read this article. He captained Team USA in 1998, 2002, and 2006. I laugh about this because Chris is such a passionate player, Granado said. He loves the game of hockey, probably more than anybody else I've ever met. He's a nut that way. He's the same, always coaching the same way. This whole process, trying to get the team picked, how to prepare for it, I'm so excited. He's a warrior. He's a guy you want on your bench. Granado is the 3rd sitting Badgers coach to take charge of a USA hockey team during the season. Bob Johnson did it with the men at the 1976 games in Innsbruck, Austria. Bob's son, Mark, a member of the 1980 team and now Wisconsin women's hockey coach, did it with the USA women in 2010 in Vancouver. He works right down the hall from me, Granado said of the younger Johnson. I went down and talked to him about it, and he said it was the experience of the 1980s for him. What it was like, the similarities to this year's team. But I think what the 1980 team did for us is it gave us our confidence, our sense of pride, and our style of play. That and a killer script. And speaking of who gets the part, Chaz Palminteri, John Turturro, we don't need to make a movie, Granado said, laughing. We just need to do well while we're over there. And I thought I would just highlight a little bit about the Team USA, the influence that Wisconsin has on Team USA in the Olympics, and certainly hope that the team comes back around and wins a couple games and gets in the middle round and does well.
Yeah, and I watched that. I don't know if you saw the first game of the Team USA against Slovenia, but it looks like USA is going to play a very high-tempo speed game, which is kind of reminiscent to the way a lot of NHL teams play today. But,
Right.
yeah, a lot of names that we don't know. A few names that we will know because they're college prospects, but interesting group of players that they put together for the American team.
Yes, and I was happy to see Brian Giunta as captain. So we'll see how it goes. The game that they play against Russia is that's gonna be interesting because I think Russia's got a great team.
Yep.
And I think they're formidable, but
Yep.
you just never know.
But before that, they've got, because of their overtime loss, they've got Slovakia tonight. I think that's a must-win for the U.S. Because,
absolutely.
Because that game against Russia is not going to be an easy one. There's a lot of former NHL players on that team. Guys like Pavel Datsyuk and
Ilya Kovalchuk.
Ilya Kovalchuk, probably the two biggest names on that team. And there's Mozyakin is a player that we've talked about a lot. He's on that Russian team.
Vadim Shipachev.
Shipachev, yeah, he's on the one game wonder, or no, he played 3 games for Vegas at the beginning of the season. He's the one goal wonder. We'll put it at that. He scored 1 NHL goal while he was playing his 3 games with Vegas, and before they let him go. So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting group to watch. Obviously, I say must win, but it's not really must win because every team advances on to the next round in this. All they're basically playing for now is seeding, but they'll make their life a whole lot easier if they can come out of this bracket on top. They can certainly still do that. With
the loss by Russia. The loss by Russia was key.
Yep.
Had Russia won that game, Wayne, it would have been difficult. But their loss, I don't think. I think the Team USA could have made it to the medal round. That's not what I'm trying to say. But I think that the loss that Russia experienced, just they can dismiss that game with Slovenia, drop it right out of their minds, and not even worry about it, not even miss a beat.
Yep. So yeah. So we'll see. We'll see how it comes. But yeah, that's Group B. There's actually 3 groups in the Olympics this year. All groups have 4 teams in them. So in Group A, you've got Canada, Czech Republic, Korea, and Switzerland. And in Group C, you've got Sweden, Finland, Germany, Norway. Group A and Group C each had their first games today. So everybody in the Olympics have played 1 game so far in the men's side. And you've got Canada and Czech Republic won their games today in Group A, and Sweden and Finland each won their games in Group C. And, of course, Slovakia, Slovenia won their games, although the Slovenia game, they use a 3-point system, so that was only worth 2 points because it was an overtime win with the USA stealing a point there. And then Slovakia got a 3-point win, and then, of course, Russia has 0. Although I say U.S. stole a point, it's more like the Slovenia stole 2 points because USA had a 2-0 lead going into the third period of that game. And Slovenia came back, tied the game, and then won it in overtime. So the steal was more on Slovenia's side.
Right.
Now, my story is also of Olympic nature, and it was a story I found on NHL.com that just highlights that 131 AHL alumni are playing in the Olympic Games across all 12 teams. So some of the names that obviously are playing or have been playing in the AHL at some point or another. You've got Chris Bourque, Bobby Butler, John McCarthy, Brian Giunta, and Christian Thomas, Cody Gobelev, and Chris Kelly are all playing in there. They're current and AHL players. And the only reason Giunta was playing in the American Hockey League was because he knew he wanted to play for Team USA going out. And obviously he couldn't sign an NHL contract because he wouldn't be able to go. So he stayed in the American Hockey League so that he'd be eligible to go play in the Olympics. As far as former players, you've got Rene Bourque playing for Canada, Christian Ehrhoff playing for Germany, Michael Jordan, who actually played for Carolina recently, is playing for the Czech Republic, Finland's Kari Ramo, Sweden's Magnus Hellberg, Russia's Alexei Marchenko, and Mark Arcobello for the U.S., all former American Hockey League players. As far as former Calder Cup champions playing there, Canada's Maxime Lapierre, U.S.'s Brian O'Neill, and Czech Republic's Patrick Bartosak, Finland's Oscar Osalis, Sami Lepisto, and Slovenia's Jan Murasak, and the U.S.'s Chad Billins, and Team USA's, again, Chris Bourque, are all former Calder Cup champions that are playing in Pyeongchang. Now, as far as, of course, along with the players going to the Olympics, you've got a bunch of AHL officials that are also playing there. Olivier Gouen, Brett Iverson, and Tim Mayer are all AHL referees that are officiating at the games. And then as far as linesmen go, you've got Fraser McIntyre and Judd Ritter, which you did a story a few weeks ago on.
Yep.
Are also linesmen that are working in the men's tournament in Pyeongchang. Now, the article that I have, there's a link in the show notes, lists every single player, all 131 players that played in the American Hockey League that are also playing over there in Korea for the Olympics. And it's listed in the article, it's listed by country, so it's a long list. I'm obviously not going to read it now, but if you want to see the list and see some of the names, there's some former NHL players too.
Were you? Is Korea, the fact that they're in this, Wayne, a gift because they are hosting the games?
Yes.
That's
They are allowed to put a team in as the host, provided that the team. The International Olympic Committee believes that the team can actually compete. And over the past several years, I read an article about this team. Over the past several years, the coach of Korea, and his name escapes me now, he's a former NHL player. Shoot. If you said it, I'd know it. But anyway, I don't have it right in front of me. But the coach of Korea put together a team. There's actually not a lot of actual Korean natives playing on that team. There's a lot of Jim Peck is the head coach.
Mm-hmm.
He played in the NHL years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And Richard Park is also another one that's also coaching. He's an American that played in the NHL. But there's actually a bunch of guys that are either American or Canadian that have been naturalized as Korean citizens. There's several teams in the Asian, the Asian Pacific Hockey League, or is this the Asian Hockey League? It's basically a bunch of countries over there: China, Asia, Korea, Australia. There may even be a team or two in New Zealand, but there's a league over in that part of the world, a professional hockey league. It's way minor league, like it's way several steps below even the European leagues. So it's not a very high level league. Certainly not worth spending a whole lot of time on. But there's a lot of former Canadian and American players playing in that league, and the head coach of Korea picked a bunch of those guys from that league, and the government of South Korea basically put them through the process of getting them naturalized as Korean citizens so that they are eligible to play for Team Korea. So you'll see a lot of American names on there. Like, for example, Matt Dalton is their goalie. He's obviously an American. Brian William Young. These aren't Korean names. Michael Swift, Mike Testweed, Eric Regan, Brock Radunsky. They don't sound very Korean. Alex Plant.
No.
So and there are a bunch of Korean players as well, but yeah, they're not expected to do much. But yeah, they were granted. To make a long story short, they were granted a spot in the tournament by being the host country.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's what I thought.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's move on to the College Hockey Minute then, shall we?
Yes, sir.
Now that our minor league talk is done. And I think our minor league talk for the next couple of weeks is going to be centered around the Olympics, just because most of the players playing in that are minor league players. So, all right. Maine last week split versus Merrimack. And then they got 2 weeks ago, they earned a split against Merrimack at home. And then last weekend, they only played one game, and that was an overtime loss against number 9 Providence. So they were coming out of last week, they were 9-8-3 in Hockey East and 15-11-4 overall, 24th in the pairwise. Now, as far as this week is concerned, they actually had a game last night, which is considered part of this week. They played at UNH. I watched that game, and they ended up winning that game in overtime. So they're now actually 16-11-4 and 10-8-3 in Hockey East. And I think they climbed out of that 6th spot. I believe they jumped to 4th with that win. And the other game they've got this week is against number 19 BC on the 17th. And then next week, they finish up with 2 games at BC. And that finishes their regular season schedule. So playoffs are just around the corner in college hockey. Or
yes, they are.
Conference playoffs, anyway. Now, as far as pairwise rankings, let's take a look at those real quick. Right now, sitting in that number 16 spot is Northern Michigan. And, of course, as a reminder, 16 teams make the NCAA tournament, so that's why I look at the 16. Number 15 right now is Michigan. Number 14 is Northeastern. 13 is Western Michigan. 12 is North Dakota. 3 teams are tied for 9th, and that's Minnesota Duluth, Nebraska Omaha, and Minnesota. 8th is Providence. 7th is Clarkson. 6th is Ohio State. 5th is Minnesota State. And 3 teams are tied for 2nd, and that's Notre Dame, Cornell, and Denver. And then number 1 again this week is St. Cloud State in the pairwise. So a very, very Western heavy rankings right now. So teams in the East are definitely struggling to stay afloat on the national picture. So right now it's looking like only 2 teams might come out of Hockey East to make the NCAA tournament unless things change, and that would be Providence and Northeastern.
Mm-hmm.
So,
although Maine would be next in line.
Yeah, Maine
University.
Maine jumped up to 21st with that win against UNH last night, but Boston University is sitting in 19th. BC is right in that picture too. They're at 24th. So there's a bunch of Hockey East teams, and UMass is at 26. A bunch of Hockey East teams just outside that top 16. But in terms of the top 16, yeah, right now there's only 2 Hockey East schools, and I can't remember the last time that only 2 Hockey East schools made the NCAA tournament. Usually it's minimum 4.
Right.
But just goes to show that the Western teams right now are simply better than the East overall.
Right.
All right, that's it for college hockey. Let's go on to the picks of the week.
Very good.
And I didn't write yours down, so why don't you just go ahead with yours?
Let me go ahead.
Yeah.
I am gonna. You got to talk about this, Wayne. You know you have to talk about this. I I'm going to talk about the Notre Dame Fighting Irish clinching the Big Ten championship.
Okay.
You would have it as a pick of the week, even if you were a casual hockey fan, if you really consider what's happened. It's their first year in the Big Ten, and they come away with a champion. They win the championship, and they really win it hands down. Shocking, really, what they've done. So I don't think there's any doubt that they're going to be in the NCAA tournament. But the way this thing goes, and you know it, one loss and you're out. They could lose in the very first round. So it'll be interesting to see. But I pulled this off the Irish website. Irish clinch Big Ten championship. Pretty easy title there. In its first year in the Big Ten Conference, the Notre Dame hockey team has clinched the Big Ten championship. Hobey Baker candidate Cale Morris, who is their goalie, made 31 saves for the Irish, earning his 21st victory of the season. Jordan Gross netted the game winner in the second period, while Andrew Ogilvie notched another tally for the Irish in their 2-1 victory over Ohio State. Ohio State goalie Sean Romeo made 21 saves in the effort, while Kevin Miller scored a power play goal for the Buckeyes. The game included 13 penalties, with the Irish going 0 for 6 on the power play and Ohio State scoring on 1 of 4 chances. The victory clinches the top seed in the Big Ten tournament, giving the Irish the first-round bye, the lone first-round bye. Notre Dame will host a semifinal game at Compton Family Ice Arena on Saturday, March the 10th, and should it advance, the final on Saturday, March 17th. So they have home ice in the Big Ten championship throughout. Some interesting notes. Notre Dame clinched its 6th conference title with all previous hardware coming in the CCHA, which I think you've taught me everything I know, is a now defunct college hockey conference. The Irish won the regular season CCH titles in 2006 and 2007, and in 2008, 2009. They captured the Mason Cup for the CCHA Tournament Championship in 2007, 2009, and 2013. And a second interesting note, it marks the first time Notre Dame has won a conference title on home ice, as they won in 2007 in Alaska and in 2009 at Omaha. The tournament titles all came at Detroit's Joe Louis Arena. So kudos to the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. They made a great go of it here for the first year, and I'm hopeful that things will continue, that they'll continue to play well. I think they play, I believe they play Michigan this weekend, so I think there's only like 4 or 5 games left in their regular season.
Yeah, they've won that regular season championship going away, haven't they?
They
got a 13-point lead on Ohio State.
Yeah.
And you know, when you mentioned Sean Romeo, Ohio State, I went and looked him up. That is, in fact, the same Sean Romeo that was playing for Maine a couple of years ago. So he obviously transferred to Ohio State. I knew he left the program, but I didn't know where he ended up.
Wow, very good.
So Sean Romeo played 2 seasons at Maine and then transferred to Ohio State. So, interesting to hear that name again. He's actually from around here. He's originally from Cary, North Carolina.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yep.
Very good.
So he's a local kid. That's why that name rang a bell. I'm like, wait a minute. Sean Romeo, I know he wasn't playing for Maine anymore, but I didn't know where he had ended up. So
right.
It's good to hear he turned up in another Division I program anyway.
Right.
All right. Well, good story. The story I have, and of course we started the show with some outdoor hockey. We're going to end the show with some outdoor hockey. The story I found on NHL.com talks about Connor McDavid and Darnell Nurse making a surprise appearance at the world's longest hockey game. Connor McDavid and Darnell Nurse had to see the world's longest hockey game in person to believe it. Edmonton Oilers captain defenseman made an impromptu appearance at Sykers Acres in Sherwood Park, Alberta, to support the 40 players during day 4 of the 10-day game.
Unbelievable.
The game, which the players are hoping breaks the Guinness World Record for longest marathon hockey game, is being played 10 miles east of Edmonton on the property of Edmonton optometrist Dr. Brent Sake. McDavid and Nurse popped over to support the players, but stayed around to talk with them, sign autographs, and pose for pictures. What they're doing is pretty remarkable, McDavid said. To see it firsthand is even better. They're 4 days in. I can't imagine what that would be like. Sake and company have played record-breaking marathon games 5 previous times, with the first going 82 hours in 2003. The group has raised more than $3 million through the previous 5 games. They will surpass the record of 250 hours, 3 minutes and 20 seconds that they set in the same location back on February 16th, 2015, on Monday. And, of course, this article was written February 13th, so that game's still going on as we speak.
Amazing.
So it'll be this coming Monday when they finally break the record. Besides setting the longest game record, the goal of the game this year is to raise $2 million to help Alberta Cancer Foundation start a profile program with at the Cross Cancer Institute. Profile is a program that gives children, adolescents, and young adults who are out of conventional treatment options another chance to beat their cancer by documenting and sharing a molecular profile of their tumors. It's amazing what they're doing and the money they're raising, McDavid said. And, of course, that's the end of the article. But yeah, it's being held at an outdoor rink. Apparently, I guess there's a couple of pictures on the article, but it appears to be at this guy's house. But he's built a very nice rink with really official boards and everything. It's either at his house or at his office, but there's a building right up against the benches there, and the game is being held at an outdoor rink facility. So,
wow.
But yeah, and you see attempts at this world longest hockey game. This group has done it several years, and there's another group here in the U.S. that has done it, and it escapes me where they're from. I think it's like Detroit area, but yeah, there's seems like every couple of years there's another attempt to break the world's longest hockey game, and it's quite interesting. I guess I'll have to put that one on my bucket list of things to do is to be part of one of these record-breaking games.
Yeah, that would be something, Wayne.
Yeah.
10 days doing that, though. I tell you what, that's
yeah, and the rules, in order to break the record, the rules have to go. There's set rules in place that they have to. I think they play. It has to, the players have to stay on the premises. They don't have to. There's 40 players, so they can work in shifts. Generally, they do 10 aside, so they work in 4-hour shifts generally. So there's 4 groups of 10 players.
Right.
And they work, in a rotation to keep the game going constantly. So usually 5 aside, and then the game just continues. They either skate in 2 or 4-hour increments, and then get a few hours off while another group goes on and plays. But the game has to go on continuously for all that time. They can stop to Zamboni the ice, but then the game has to get right back on again. And other than that, I think that's pretty much most of the rules.
Very interesting.
So they obviously aren't going to play on 10-day-old ice that doesn't get zammed. They are allowed to stop the game and zam the ice like once an hour or once every couple of hours or something like that. So
right.
So yeah, and it's being held at an outdoor rink in Canada. So yeah, ending the show with outdoor hockey just like we started the show with outdoor hockey.
Yeah.
So
very good, Wayne.
All right, that is all we have for this show. So we're going to go ahead and wrap things up. Got a lot in there in 2 weeks worth of hockey talk. So
a lot of stuff crammed in.
Yeah, yeah, we did do a lot of cramming for sure.
We sped through stuff, Wayne.
Yep. So So anyway, if you want to give us some feedback, you can tweet us. I'm at Wayne Halley 9. Steve is at SBall504. You can reach us through our Facebook page at facebook.com/thehockeynuts. You can reach us on our YouTube channel where we're starting to put more and more content outside. We do post the videos of the recording of this podcast on the YouTube channel, but I'm also starting to put other stuff up there. For example, I put a lot of footage from the outdoor hockey, the pond hockey tournament that I played in last weekend. There's a lot of footage from that on the YouTube channel too, so for you to check out if you want to check it out. So, and you can do that at thehockeynuts.com/YouTube. So with that, we'll go ahead and end the show.
Very good, Wayne.
All right.
Great working with you.
Yep.
Of course, real quick, we'll get together this Saturday. We're going to an AHL game, but I'm looking forward to it.
That's right. That's right. We are. So we'll have that to talk about next week. And then, of course, as we reach the getting closer to the trade deadline, we'll have more of that to talk about. We'll probably have at least one trade between now and then. So.
Oh, I think so. Yep.
Yep. All right. So let's go ahead and end it for this week. And until next week, we'll talk to you later. Have a good night, Steve.
Have a good night, Wayne. Take care.
Right. You too. All right.
Yeah, we sped through that one.
Yeah, we did.
A lot of information, though, you know?
Yep. There was so much. We had to blow through a lot of it.
Yeah.
I've got a damn mosquito flying around in my room.
Oh, do you really?
My wife's had the back door open, so.
My mother-in-law had I don't know if it was a pipe burst or something in her apartment, so my wife had to go, and I've been getting these phone calls and stuff. So I better get to them. But I did want to. I don't know what time you want to get together. I figure if I can meet you at Harris Teeter.
Well, I'm off, so we can do it anytime if we want. So we don't have to rush. We can leave earlier than 3 if you want to meet at like 2. That gets us down there 2 hours before game.
Yeah.
It's up to you.
I'm trying to think what I got to do Saturday.
Yeah, I was planning on doing all my stuff in the morning that I need to do. So.
Yeah, I can. How about we say 2:30?
Okay, that'll work.
2:30. I can meet you over there.
Yep.
2:30. And I have the tickets.
Okay. I'll park out near the gas station.
Okay.
Way out at the top of the lot.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. And we'll get together. What we'll do is I can drive this time.
Okay.
And I forget how much parking is, but I'll bring. But we'll 2:30 is fine. And we'll grab something, I don't know, on the way down there or whatever. I don't know how you want to do dinner, but we'll grab something to eat when we get down there. Or
I was kind of thinking have some poutine.
Oh, you want to do it at the game? That's fine with me, man. I'll eat there. Yeah.
Prices weren't too bad.
No, they weren't. That's fine. Let's do that. Yeah, let's do that.
All right.
Yeah, I'll eat at the game. No problem.
And then we have that and okay. And no change in your Rangers game, by the way. Still 1-0.
Still 1-0.
Yep.
Well,
they're in the second now.
Fingers crossed. We'll see what happens here. I don't know. I'm not holding out a lot of negative energy.
Canes are 2-2 right now.
Devils are good.
Yep.
You know.